It's all good. While everybody else is coming in, look around, see if there's somebody you've never met before, and please say hello to them. And Scripture says, if you want friends, show yourself friendly. Come in, come in, come in. Hey, there's less of you every. I was looking at Christmas pictures last year. There's less of all of us. I should do a before and after of all of us. We're so happy to have Joanne with us. Many of you know her from Church of the Nest. She came up for Dorothy's memorial service yesterday that we had, and Beth brought her today. Beth, I won't go in a lot of detail, but Beth needs agreement for a miracle with her father, and I'll just leave it at that and not say any more than that because then people get their handprints all over it. So let's just keep it like that and say let's believe for the best. Is that good enough? And she knows. You don't have to tell her anything. I mean, she knows what to say and what to believe and all that kind of stuff. And so all of you here, Jackie's not in trouble. If you wonder why she's got to leave early, she's got to go to Nashville. She's not in timeout. She and Jack have not split up. It's just easier to sit over there than crawl over everybody. And glad to have Francis' beautiful daughter Selena with us. Thank you for being here. And I'll introduce Marshall and Corey. I'll introduce Marshall in just a moment. You're going to love him, and just so glad that so many of you are back. We're really happy to see. We're always happy to see Ray and Joanne, but yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of his heart attack, and we're so happy today that we're looking at him and not talking about, this was a year ago today. So that's good, and it's inspirational to all of us. We've all been through many dangers, toils, and snares. We have already come. You know what I'm saying? But we're here, and Fro's here, and he's, it's. Any of you that have been through surgery know it takes you a minute to bounce back, and so I wouldn't yell at him for not being here, but I'm glad that he is here. So don't wear him out and tell him a bunch of stories about your surgery. He needs to. It's not going to help him. So we're glad that he's here. I think today's Margot's birthday, so we want to wish her a happy birthday. And so anyway, we're already in agreement. We set our intention today that it's the day that the Lord has made, and better said, it's the day that the Lord has empowered us to make. So we make this day awesome. It's a beautiful day, regardless of what the immediate weather around us looks like. It's just weather. It doesn't matter. We know the sun is shining, and we are here, and we are well, and we are blessed. As David said, I was glad when they said to me, let's go into God's house, or let's go into the concept of sanctuary. Whether that's in a church building or a theater or out in Piedmont Park, whatever it is, it's the house of the Lord. The house of the Lord is where 2 or more are gathered together in His name. So here we are, and just remain standing. We're going to roll this, and then I'm going to introduce to you our wonderful guest for March. Go ahead, Charles, please.
Good morning, and welcome to METRON. METRON is measure or sphere of influence.
Y'all should be able to say it with him now.
Through motivation, enlightenment, transcendence, renewal, outreach, and networking. Today is your day to find your METRON.
Good morning, buenos dias, bonjour. Glad that you're here. Those of you that are streaming, we're glad that you're here. What we did for our streamers, we've tried every way to get around this to save the money, but we went ahead and just got a contract with Comcast to make sure that we've got internet. So we should have you the whole time today. If not, I promise for next week. So we're still we're still getting our land legs on it, but that's how much we love our streamers. And several people have said, well, we can't figure out how to find it. And Avery posted the most detailed. If you can't find it with that, there's just give your computer up. There's no hope for you then. So I'm believing that people are streaming today, and we got a lot of new things working. Charles has brought in a switcher, so we're if we don't have it up today, we will for sure by next Sunday. But we're getting to where we don't need two cameras. We can switch from me to the screen so that when I refer to the screen, people can see it. So that's going to be awesome, and I still want to get another camera because I'd like to start doing the In the Now the Jim Swilley shows again, and you need more than one camera for that. But all in due time. But I love you so much. I'm so glad. You know, on a day like today, don't quote me on this, but I know it would be easy to look out the window and go, you know, I love them, but I don't know. I mean, Pastor Tony Wayne drive like 300 miles to get here every Sunday. I mean, I could understand, you know, you just like, oh, you know what, it's foggy. I don't think I'm going to go. But look at you. Y'all are so next level. And you just got up and came anyway, and I promise you it's going to be worth it. Hebrews says there is a reward for those who diligently seek him. And when you make that little extra effort, there's a little something extra in it for you. Amen? Now, you know, I have loved, just remain standing for a moment, and if our guest wants to have you seated, I'll let him, he'll tell you that. But this is what I love about METRON. You know, Jesus said the kingdom of God is like someone who brings treasure out of his household, both old and new. So I have loved having, you know, people like Paulette and people that, you know, were a part of Church of the Now and will always be here, we'll always have an open door for them. But I also love that in this community we're meeting some new people that are coming from a different stripe. And the young man that we have with us this month, I met him through Jonah, and I've checked out a lot of his stuff. I promise, because I know y'all are going to so love him. He's young, but he's like old school, and he's hip, and you think he's white, but he sounds black when he sings. And in this crowd, that will go over really well. We like when you're all swirly, when we don't know what you are. If we can't put a label on you, the better we like you. So without any further ado, I want you to welcome our new friend, Marshall Ruffin. Marshall, come up. Do your thing. Yay.
Please sit down. I thought I'd start with a song I heard a lot growing up that y'all might recognize while we get to know each other. Some bright morning, when this life is over, I'll fly away to a land on God's celestial shore. Oh, I'll fly away. Oh, I'll fly away. Oh, glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by. Oh, I'll fly away. Oh, so glad and happy when we meet. Oh, I'll fly away. No more cold iron shackles on my feet. Oh, I'll fly away. Oh, I'll fly away. Oh, glory. I'll fly away. Oh, when I die. Hallelujah, by and by. Oh, when I fly away. Just a few more weary days and then I fly away to a land where my joys will never end. Oh, I'll fly away. Oh, I'll fly away. Oh, glory. I'll fly away. Oh, when I die. Hallelujah, by and by. Oh, I'll fly away. Oh, when I die. Hallelujah, by and by. Well, I'm gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside. Ain't gonna study up on whoa no more, no more, no more. I'm gonna wash off my sword and my shield down by the riverside. by the riverside. Down by the riverside, I'm gonna wash off my sword and my shield. Down by the riverside, ain't gonna study up on war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study up on war no more. Study war no more. You know I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study up on war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study up on war no more. Study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study up on war no more. Well, I'm gonna lay down my brother down by the riverside. Down by the riverside. Down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my brother down by the riverside. Ain't gonna study up on war no more. Okay. Gotta do what the boss tells you to do. Man. Okay, I wrote a gospel song. This is it. He's gonna light the way to heaven forever. I know he's gonna light the way to heaven forever. I said he's gonna light the way to heaven forever. Well, good Lord, good Lord, good Lord, good Lord, he's gonna light the way to heaven for me. Well, now Satan isn't the deceiver. He'll catch you in the dark, lead you down to the river for to drown your holy spark. But if you look if you look into the shadow and you see a golden light, well, you know it is your Savior coming for to lead you through the night. I said he's gonna light the way to heaven forever. I said he's gonna light the way to heaven forever. I said he's gonna light the way to heaven forever. Well, good Lord, good Lord, good Lord, good Lord, he's gonna light the way to heaven for me. Yes, yes, yes. Well, if you're in the valley of the shadow of death, and you feel the devil creeping at your back with icy breath, just look up to the mountain, yes, for a lantern in hand. No, it is your Savior coming for to lead you to the promised land. I said he's gonna light the way to heaven forever. I said he's gonna light the way to heaven forever. I said he's gonna light the way to heaven forever. Well, good Lord, good Lord, good Lord, good Lord, he's gonna light the way to heaven. 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 I know he's gonna light the way. 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 He's gonna light the way to heaven. I know he's gonna light the way to heaven. I know he's gonna light the way to heaven.
Marshall Ruffin. Excellent. Yeah. That'll work. I love it. Yeah. I'm telling you. No matter how you interpret those lyrics, there is so much Oh my God. And see, I didn't know you wrote that. When I saw that on YouTube, I assumed that was something Muddy Waters recorded in 1932. I had no idea. I mean, you've definitely tapped into the ancestors. And I'll tell you a little, I'll tell you in a minute. But that was good. One more time, Marshall Ruffin. You made me You may be seated. If you go to, he's got a Facebook page. You may have a website, I don't know, but I know he's got a Facebook page, and you can go there and find, because I know he appears locally around here, and I don't know if you have product with you, or, but definitely put him on your radar screen, because good. I don't think I have any presentation about this, but I do want you to know that our outreach for the month is the St. Jude's Children's Hospital, and we might show some presentation about. Oh, we do have a presentation. Look at my Cracker Jack staff. Anyway, if you don't know, remember Danny Thomas. He started this back in the '60s, and it is a hospital, kind of like an Eggleston's, only you don't pay anything when it's for children. Those of you that came out of the Roman Catholic Church know that St. Jude was the patron saint of hopeless causes. And it's amazing to me that they can raise the kind of funds, knowing what cancer treatment, that kind of stuff costs. But we'll have a little more information about it for you through the month. But for sure, just so you know, what you give here doesn't just go to rent and Wi-Fi and my salary and all that kind of stuff. We spread the love. So. And next month we'll be doing Church on the Street. Remember my friend Dan that was here last week. So anyway, we'll tell you more about that later. But I'm ready to get into my topic for this month. As long as y'all are here, I might as well say a little something. Since you can't, right? All right. You don't have to stand back up, but we speak into this atmosphere and we say, "Let there be light." I want to show you a verse of scripture that I've used before, but there's something about it in this translation that so resonates with me. I don't even think we have begun to mine the riches that are in this. My topic for this month, it's something I've talked about and talk about frequently, and I make no apology for that. I think it's important, but it's my topic for this month is creating with God. Genesis 1:26, let us make people in our image, is what the Hebrew really says. And let them have dominion. I don't know if any of you ever read My Utmost for His Highest. It was written by a Scottish man. And I never really enjoyed it that much. It came across a little too preachy to me, except for this one thing that I read in there one day that made it all worthwhile. He said, stop praying that God changes things. Pray that God changes you and you change things. And I thought, all right, well, that's it. That's the message of the kingdom. That's why Jesus said the kingdom of God is at hand. It's handy. It's within what you do with your hands. It's not out there somewhere. It's right where you are. God says to Moses, what do you have in your hand? Moses has this stick there's nothing magical about it, but it's what he had in his hand. It's what he had that he knew what to work with. And, I've been teaching on this for years, but I still think that we're just beginning to walk in this idea of co-creating with God. Of course, we believe in a higher power. Of course, we believe in intelligent design. Of course, we accept the terminology of the Bible and will refer to God as He, and we'll speak of Him in patriarchal terms. But we also understand that God is a bigger concept than that. So that when our brothers and sisters who are not part of church world will say things like the universe this or the universe that, we don't have any issue with that because God's a bigger concept than a Judeo-Christian mindset. Now that's what we know, so we'll be faithful to that, but we also know that when Jesus said, I have sheep and other pastors you don't know anything about, that means there's stuff going on the other side that we don't have our heads around, and we're just tapping into the mystery of it. Good news is we can keep all those traditions, and that's why, I love a lot of these young people at Marshall, my sons are like this, that they really tap into, even when Jonah was here, you know, he did an old Johnny Cash song or whatever. And I love that they, first of all, honor the tradition of those songs, but also bring them back into our mindset. Like when I hear I'll Fly Away, it means all kind of things to me now. To me, it doesn't mean just I'm going to go on a deathbed one day and then go to heaven. To me, it's transcendence. It's when I die on one level, I'm going to fly away to the next level. And I love that we're in that place of maturity where we can hear something and not have to micro-judge every little lyric because it means all kind of things to us. What's particularly interesting to me, and this is the last time I'll refer to him because I don't want to embarrass him, but I always look for my synchronicity. Like, you know, especially on Sundays, I'm like, all right, where's my confirmation? And sometimes it'll come out of something that somebody says to me. Sometimes it'll be in a song or whatever. But it's just this little, I usually don't say anything about it, but it's a little thing that I wait for. Like, where's my harmony? You know, I'm like, okay, it's out there. I mean, I could go on and do my thing without it, but I have just learned I need that little angel on my shoulder so I can have my confidence. And I asked him to do 2 songs. He did 2, and I said, we'll do a third one. Well, when he did the third one, I was listening to that line and didn't know he wrote the song, but he says, Satan is like a deceiver who will take you down to the riverside. And, of course, Satan is, you know, the word devil means adversary. So there's, you know, people say, do you believe in Satan? Oh, yeah. It's all over the place. I don't think it's necessarily a disembodied spirit or a demon with horns, but yeah, there are adversarial things. Like, for instance, if you tell me I've got cancer, pray for me, I have no problem saying, Satan, I rebuke you in Jesus' name, but I'm speaking to the cancer. The cancer is the devil. It's adversarial to the cells in your body. So that I can flow with, if you're charismatic and you're binding the devil and that, and you're thinking something else, I'm so mature, I can still agree with you. That's what I love. Because I can go to your church, whether you can come to mine or not, I can come to yours. That's why I know I'm a grown-up. And but what the lyric says, and you might have to repeat it to me because I don't want to misquote it, but it's something about he'll take you into the shadows or something. But when you look in, what does it say? You look into the shadow, you'll see the light. Isn't it something like that? What is the exact lyric? What does it say? You can't remember. All right. There was my synchronicity today. When he says, when you look into the shadow, you'll see a golden light. I thought, wow, okay. Of course, I just met him a few minutes ago. He has no idea what I'm going to teach on today. But I thought that's exactly what I'm talking about, is looking into the chaos, looking into the darkness, and that's where you find the light. And listen, there's no way you can tell me that God's not real or that I don't walk in the light. It doesn't matter. Every one of y'all could get up, except for Ken. I would be really ticked off if Ken said it. But if the rest of you said, you know what, you're not in the light, I'd be like, well, you're just wrong. You just don't perceive the light, because I know. And when I get those little signposts from the universe, from the Holy Spirit or whatever, I'm like, yeah, we're on the right track. Now, having said that, let me show you this first verse of Scripture. I've got 7 things to show you today. This first one, now this is Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. Now, most of us are used to hearing it King James Version. Most of us are used to hearing it. What do we, okay. Devil, I bind you. It's all good. Do I need another battery or what? Man, I'm just killing these batteries the last couple of weeks. I'm on fire. Too much power. Hold that thought a minute. Talk amongst yourselves. We got it? We got it? All right. And I never miss a beat. Did y'all see this thing Madonna was this week was performing in England, and there was a thing where they were supposed to rip a cape off of her. When they did, it pulled her down to the ground, and like the Twitterverse has gone nuts. But I thought, for whatever you say about Madonna, I'm not even necessarily a fan, but she never stopped the song. She fell, and she's my age. She fell and never missed a beat with the song. I thought, girl, I'll give her that. An amateur would have burst into tears and run off the stage, but she just got up and kept singing. I was like, you better go, Material Girl. Anyway. Yeah. So whatever you say about it, we keep going. All right. The King James says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. That's verse 1. Verse 2 is, and the earth was without form and void. Now, I remember in Bible college, they taught us what they called the gap theory, and they say that there could necessarily be thousands of years between verse 1 and verse 2. Moses and the other people that wrote the Torah would be astounded that in the 21st century, people take these words so literally. They didn't even mean them that literally. They were, there's a term called theopoetics, and these Eastern writers, that's what they mastered in. And of course they're anointed. Listen, for anybody, I was reading some stuff online this week about apparently somewhere in England or somewhere in Europe they're putting microchips in some people's hands, and so the Facebook was going nuts over it's the Book of Revelation. I'm like, oh Jesus, that's not even what the 13th chapter is about. It's talking about a mindset. It has nothing to do with technology. But and I sometimes when I do have the nerve to venture onto the news feed, I think, how are these people even friends with me? Some of the people that are liking on my stuff are like, you better get right with God because they're putting microchips. I'm like, oh Lord, how could you possibly? What does that even mean? Get right with God. I mean, if Jesus dying on the cross didn't get it for you, then you ain't gonna get any. You can't get any righter than that. Anyway, so I'm saying that to say, whatever you think is mysterious about the book of Revelation, the book of Genesis is way more mystical than Revelation is. Especially those first few chapters about how Moses visualized the beginning of mankind, or at least the beginning of God's covenant with man through his understanding. Clearly, there were people here, and before Adam and Eve, even if Adam and Eve were literal, because, he says, when Cain kills Abel, he says, well, if you put this mark on me, the other nations will, they'll hunt me down and kill me. I mean, he didn't just talk about people, he talked about nations. And he went to a place it had a name. It was called Nod. It had a geographical location. He found his wife there. I mean, it's just even if you don't have Revelation, just read it. Just, but anyway. But there are all kinds of things in Genesis that are very, and I find this attractive, but very mysterious, very mystical. The whole idea of Eden and it having 4 rivers and there's so much symbolism in all of that. And I'm very drawn to people who understand the symbolism of the Bible and don't get fixated on the literalness of it, because when they obsess over the literalness of it, they miss the letter kills, and they don't hear the spirit of it. So it's an amazing thing. If you don't think there's a gap between verse 1 and verse 2, you think, well, then God wasn't a really good creator then, because he created everything formless and in a vacuum. Now, let me show you what it says in the Concordant Literal Version. I don't love this translation for all passages, but once in a while, this translation just nails it. And it certainly does here. This is Genesis 1, verse 1 through 3 in the Concordant Literal Old Testament. Now, in I couldn't find any other translation that uses in the beginning. But in the Concordant, they tap into a very nuanced form of speech in the Hebrew where it says in a beginning. Not in the beginning, in a beginning. Now, this is fascinating because any of you that are interested in quantum physics, you hear the word multiverse. That there's not just the universe, but there's any number of realities. People who are into string theory talk about there may be 11 dimensions, there might be 18 dimensions, there might be infinite dimensions. We see that in the scriptures. That's why you have all these layers of things like the good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Paul, whether he did it intentionally or not, tapped into this idea over and over again in his writings. He would talk about it could turn out this way, or it could turn out this way, or it could turn out this way. Every choice that you make changes the arc of your life. We've talked about it a lot. Ken and I met online, and we've talked about, like, wow, what would have happened if, because it was interesting the way that we met. It was on a dating site, and it's a reputable dating site. It's not some funky booty call place. It was like these are mature people who are looking for a relation, and it's gay and straight. It's like it's not a hookup thing. It's not Grindr or one of those things. But look, y'all knew what that was. I can tell the way you laughed. See, that's so funny that y'all knew that. Anyway, I was expecting y'all to go, what's he talking about? Y'all knew. That's scary. All right. So, but he had actually gone off of that, but it went back on because they had like a special or something. He said, I'll try it one more time. And if he hadn't gone on that day, we wouldn't have met. So we've talked about, wow, where do you think you would be today if I hadn't clicked on that day, and if you hadn't clicked on what? There's all these infinite variables of what would be different about my life today had we not made that connection. And we all have that. And many movies and TV shows have Gwyneth Paltrow did a movie a few years ago. You kind of get lost. It gets complicated, but it's called Sliding Doors, and it shows her getting on a subway, and in one scenario, she gets on the subway and she meets this guy that she's going to marry, and it takes her life in a certain direction. But then it shows a parallel reality where the door's shut, and because she didn't meet the guy, her life went in a different direction. And that's true for all of us. And if you overthink that kind of stuff, you can really mess with your head, because you think, oh my God, I'm in the wrong life because the door at MARTA closed and I was supposed to have met the right, whatever. So I want you to hear this spiritually and not necessarily intellectually. But I think this is fascinating that, first of all, it says in a beginning. Or in other words, in this reality that we agree to, this is how this writer of this ancient text saw the creation of things. And it's valid. It is, people ask me, do you believe the Bible is infallible? No, it's not infallible. The Bible writers would tell you it's not infallible. Is it inspired? Absolutely it's inspired. It's inspired by the Holy Spirit. I'm inspired, but I'm not infallible. I mean, you can tell when God speaks to me, and you can tell when it was me. And you're mature enough to say, oh, that was God and that was him, and there was a few minutes there it was God and him, but there's a lot of him in there towards the end of it. But somewhere, he hit it on God a few times, and that's why we keep showing up. You have to learn how to not just rightly divide the scriptures, you have to rightly divide the sermon and say, well, he's a human being who has his things, his agendas or whatever, but if you can learn to navigate through it, he will tap into something that we believe is the voice of God that will resonate with us. I mean, it's like it's a no-brainer to me. I don't know why people don't understand that yet. But anyway, they will. But it says, in a beginning, created by the Elohim. It's another way of spelling Elohim, which means it means multiple gods, because until Abraham, the teaching was in the Bible was not monotheistic. It was polytheistic, because these people came from a part of the world where the Greeks and the Romans believed in many gods, and that's why the beginning of the chapter says, "Let us," plural, "create man in our," plural, image. And so these ancient readers would have read that, and they believed that, there were more than one God. But then Abraham came along and said, well, it really is all one God. Now, this is fascinating. I don't want to get sidetracked here, but when I was meditating on this week, I thought, that's what this whole thing's about. Because whether you believe, like Eddie came out of a Pentecostal background where they were strong on oneness. Like from his apostolic background, people who believed in the Trinity were deceived. Well, I was taught in my Pentecostal Bible college that people that deny the Trinity were lost, and there was a false doctrine. When I started meeting people who came out of that background, I said, you know what, we're saying the same thing. Do I believe in 3 gods? Do I believe in one God? No, it's all God. And you see where I'm going with this? What we're waiting for, the reflection, to understand that all people are one. Once all the people become one and we realize that the gods are all one, it will all be one. You know, I was watching the Oscars last week, and several of the people that won awards, they had their little platform to say their political thing, and that's been going on forever. I mean, as far back as, remember Marlon Brando didn't show up and he sent a Native American who turned out to be an actress that he hired. She wasn't even Native American, but I digress. But whatever, that's part of the show, and some of them use their platform to make a political statement. It just is what it is, and whatever. What interested me this year is nobody said anything that ticked me off. I was like, well, yeah, but I was reading on Facebook, every group was ticked off by another group. Like I was reading, like straight people were ticked off that the gay guy that won for Imitation Game said something about, stay weird and crazy, whatever, and there, people didn't like that, and then white people didn't like that John Legend said what he said about more African American men incarcerated than were in slavery, and I'm like, why are you so upset about that? That is true. That's not like he didn't make that up. That's a statistic. What he's so mad about? Slow down, people of color. Then when what's her name, Arquette got up and said, I was reading many of my friends of color were infuriated by that. Like, what? We got to help some white woman. White women are privileged. And I'm looking at that like, why is everybody so mad? Everybody that said something I agreed with. I was like, yeah, women need to be paid the same as men. As a man, that didn't tick me off. I heard John Legend say what he said, and Common, when his was perfect. I mean, he's like he's so amazing the way he says stuff. But it was a great acceptance speech, and it didn't. As a white man, it didn't bother me at all. I was like, yeah, you're right. Selma is still a reality, and we're still, in theory, people are still crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and civil rights doesn't happen all in one day. It's all an evolution. That it didn't bother me at all, and I was shocked that people were bothered by it. And I thought, wow, no wonder we need a place like METRON where at least there's something that brings people together and say, look, just because you have an issue doesn't mean my issue is not valid, and I can embrace your issue, and I can see your point, and I don't have to get on social media and write ugly stuff about just because you might notice something that I don't notice. And then I've got Latino friends that were mad that when the guy won for the director of Birdland, when Sean Penn introduced him, he made a joke about a green card. Well, I didn't notice that, but I'm not Latino, and I'm not on edge about green cards and people assuming that I'm an illegal alien, and furthermore, that you're implying I don't deserve what I got just because I speak Spanish. But when I read people's comments, I thought, well, touche. If I were Latino, I'd probably be pretty ticked off at that too. So it didn't make me mad. It broadened my horizons. I thought, well, I should be more aware of people who are immigrants to this country, some of their sensitivities, because guess what? Whether your ancestors came over on the Mayflower on slave ships, all of our ancestors are immigrants. There's, we all had family that came from somewhere else that got here, and we're creating this idea, clumsy as it is at times, that we are all one, and that's why, that's the America I believe in. That's what I'm patriotic for. So what's that got to do with Genesis 1:1? All right, let me explain. It says, in the beginning, created by the Elohim, or the Elohim, and it's the same place where, in the Kabbalah manuscript, Jesus refers to his father as Allah, which is it's the same thing as when Muslims call him Allah, Elohim, Allah. It's all the same root word. This is what's interesting about language. People, and I still haven't figured out the Tower of Babel yet. I'm still trying to understand what that was about and how that got counterbalanced on the day of Pentecost when they spoke in tongues, and there's more there than we have understood. But when we look at all the languages, we're going to get back to realizing that everybody was saying the same thing in the beginning. It's, just a lot of things were lost in translation. And I'm not just talking about Bible translation. I'm talking about the way reality was spoken to you in your neighborhood, from your family, from your heritage. Some of you are friends with my friend Jacob Israel. He wrote a powerful piece this week about faith comes by hearing, and what you hear first. Matter of fact, I've been talking to him for a long time about coming down and speaking here. You would really like this guy. About people believe the first thing they hear, and he's so right about that. And probably some of that teaching is going to come into my teaching this week, and I will give him props for. If I quote somebody, as you know, I always will give them props, because I have been quoted on Christian television lots of times and didn't get props for it. I like a little props. All right. In the beginning, created by the Elohim, were the heavens and the earth. Yet the earth became a chaos and vacant. That's the rest of the part of my title this month is Creating with God, Transforming Chaos into Cosmos. Now, let me tell you what that means. Cosmos is the word where we get world. It means two things. It means world, worlds. It also means ornament. That's where we get the word cosmetics or cosmology, which is fascinating because basically, any of you that got up this morning and put on makeup, you're creating another reality. Do you know what I mean? But there's actually, it's not superficial. There's something very interesting about that. Woman puts on false eyelashes and lines her eyes and creates a different reality for her eyes. And it's not just with makeup. Like my shoulders aren't this square. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's part of the reason you buy a tailored suit, because it makes you look a certain way. I'm not this V-shaped. This is I'm working on it, but there is a cosmetic element to your clothes, and that's why stylists help you figure out what's gonna create the best image for you, because there's all kind of tricks that people can do to make themselves look thinner or make themselves look taller or whatever. So it's interesting to me that the root of both those things, world and ornament, is cosmos. So you're going to hear more about that this month, because there's something really strong about that. It's like I can create the reality that I want. I can create cosmos out of chaos, which is why when he said, "Look into the shadows, and you will see a shining light," I was like, well, okay, wow, synchronicity all over that. All right. In a beginning, created by the Elohim, were the heavens and the earth, yet the earth became a chaos and vacant, and darkness was on the surface of the submerged chaos. King James says, darkness on the face of the deep. Now, I know I'm speaking up here, but let me bring it down here where we all live. Everybody in here right now is going through something that you look at and you go, what the heck is going on with this? What does this mean? Why did this turn out this way? I see too many Christians get on Facebook and say, I don't know why, I've served God all these years, and why is this happening to me? And I think, oh, wow, you're seeing this so wrong. This should not alienate you from your concept of God. It should make you look into it. Even like I told you a couple of weeks ago that God comes out of the whirlwind, out of the violent storm, and speaks to Job. When stuff is going on in your life that you don't understand, that appears to be negative, it is your responsibility to look into the cosmos, because there is light under the surface of the submerged chaos. And you see this all through the scriptures. Now, yesterday was a Supercross, and Ken's sons are big fans of that, and my boys wanted to go with it too, so we bought them tickets for that. Judah had a wedding, and he was filming, and it went on too long, so he missed it. But so we sent them. They came over to the loft, and Christina brought baby Addison over, and so we had a whole evening of bonding with her, and it was awesome. And babies, there's something. I'm not saying y'all don't have it too, but I got something with newborn babies. You've seen me dedicate babies for years, and there is something, I don't know if it's speaking to their eternal spirit or whatever, but I definitely had it with her last night, and of course Ken did. Of course he's bonding with her, but he's feeling grandparent stuff. But I mean, there was more, and I'm feeling it too. I'm feeling like, well, you know, I was going, baby Addison, I'm your steppapa. You're going to live in a very open-minded world. And I took her over to the Atlanta skyline. I said, this is Atlanta. You're going to be spending lots of time here as you grow up. And it was strange because, you know, she's looking at us like she completely understands what we're saying. You know, I would say something, and then Kim would say something, she'd look back and forth. And, you know, I mean, it wasn't. It was like real communication. When they grow a little more, they start running around, you kind of lose a little bit about it. When they first get here, yeah, and they still got it. They got heaven all over them. You know what I mean? So, what was my point? What was I telling you? I got so many things going on in my head. Where was I going with that? Oh, okay. I got it. So the tickets were kind of pricey, and we bought them for the boys. Well, Judah didn't have his, and or he wasn't going to use his. So Jared was going to call a friend of his to come go with them to use that ticket. Well, I texted Judah. I'd gone to the store to get. Christine didn't have any nursing pads. I thought, boy, it's been years since I've gone into a store and looked for nursing pads, but. Sometime last night she says, do y'all mind if I nurse the baby? I was like, sweetie, do you know how much of that I've seen in my life? I'm not even noticing it. Go for it. But I texted Judah. I said, if I hate that you can't go. If you work out something, try to go later. And he said, well, I think Jared's going to try to sell the ticket. I thought, oh no, oh God, no. Jared does not need a trip back to. I do not need to get that call. I've already seen him in an orange jumpsuit. I would rather not see him again. So I texted him, Jared, please don't try to sell that ticket, please. I'll buy it from you. And he said, no, a friend of mine's going to. I said, good. Because something happened to him. Gosh, it's been nearly 2 years ago now. It was partly his fault, but not really his fault. But it was a felony. And, you know, their band travels internationally a lot. He could have never traveled with his band again. He potentially could have gone to the penitentiary for 20 years. But what it was is he didn't realize he was speaking to a cop at his ex-girlfriend's house, and he just heard a guy answered the phone, and he's like, well, who is this? Well, you know, he starts saying things to a guy that if he had known it was a cop, wouldn't have said, but you don't talk to cops like that. Anyway, he called me one night, and while he was in between trials, and he said, Dad, I'm just freaking out. He said, what am I going to do? He said, I could be going, not to jail, to penitentiary. I mean, federal offenses or not federal offenses, felonies. You know, you go to different places for felonies. And I said, Jared, look, you know, whether you remember these Bible stories or not that I taught you when you were young, I said there was one that you used to like a lot called about Jacob wrestling with the Lord. And I said, in the story, Jacob wrestles with God, and he says, I'm not going to let you go till you bless me. And I said, you're going to have to hold on to this thing and wrestle with it until a blessing comes out of it. And I said, only you can do that. I can't fight that fight for you. And he got a hold of it. Do you know? They didn't just drop the charges; they expunged. It's not even on his record now, and and he knows that. He knows that he wrestled with a thing that could have killed him, but it became a blessing. That's exactly what I'm talking about today. Underneath the surface of the submerged, or there is submerged chaos, and underneath the surface is your answer. But you have to know this part. Yet the spirit of the Elohim is, not was, and I love that the concordant uses the present tense, is vibrating. I've taught this. You remember, I've got a picture of Ray and me both doing like that because I said there's a word above you vibrating, and we're all moving up toward that. but I want to bring it back to your attention today. Yet the spirit of the Elohim is vibrating over the surface of the water, and saying is the Elohim, become light. British people in the 1600s interpreted it, let there be light. This is closer to the original meaning. And saying is the Elohim, become light, and it is becoming light. Not, and it became light. Not, let there be light, and there was light. This is where people have lost it. They don't understand, well, I spoke it into existence. It didn't happen. It's all, I know this is cliche, but it's all a journey. You have to look at all of the, is anybody any chaos in your life? Anybody at all? Any chaos? You've had some. You know, I've walked with y'all through some of your chaos. But I also know, hear me, you have to look over the face of your deep, and you have to find the vibration to where you say, let there be light, or let this become light. And what looks like the abyss, you look into it, as he said in that lyric, you look into the shadow and you see the light. That's why you shouldn't be discouraged about any perceived negative thing in your life. I don't care what the doctor tells you. I don't care what you hear. I don't care what bad report you hear. You have to look at the submerged chaos and say, there is a vibrating word. It is becoming light. And it will not, hear this, the answer will not be off in heaven somewhere. The answer is in the chaos. It's why Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. The very fact that he says seek it means it's not clearly obvious. Luke 17 says the kingdom does not come by observation. So that everything that happens, you have taught this for years. I remember one time I picked up a flower arrangement and I said, you got to tear this thing apart and say the kingdom's in here somewhere. You know, if I don't care how much I mess this thing up, I'm not going to let this thing go till I find the kingdom in it. I'm going to, if it doesn't look like a blessing yet, it is becoming light. It is becoming a blessing. No matter what you throw at me, no matter how much chaos is around me, eventually it will all become a blessing. I will keep looking. Because here's the thing. There's a lot of water on the earth. Mostly water. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but let me show you these next verses. This is John chapter 1, verses 1 through 5 and verse 14. This is in the Caboris manuscript. What I just read to you was Hebrew. This is out of Aramaic. This is the language Jesus actually spoke. You're familiar with this. And the words, I didn't take them out just to show you. The words in parentheses are the original Aramaic words. I will not try to pronounce them. I'll just read the English words. At the very beginning, there was willed action. This is where King James says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. At the very beginning, there was willed action, and the willed action then was by God, or Allah, and God was that willed action. The beginning was by God, all was by him, and without him not a single thing came into being out of that which was. Did any of you ever grow up on a farm, or if you were around it? Well, you know everything had its season, right? Like a person that understands agriculture could say, oh, those beans need another month. The watermelon we just planted, it won't be here till the summer. You can look at all, if you plant multiple things, you can look at all these different fields and see that they are all in different stages of maturity. Any farmer would know you don't just run out and harvest everything at once. That's why there are seasons. That's why Psalm 1:3 says, he who brings forth his fruit in his season. When I say I'm blessed, I don't mean I'm a little bit blessed. I'm completely blessed. But that doesn't mean that all of the blessings have matured yet. Do you understand? But harvest time will come for each of them. So you can't judge my life to say, well, you don't look blessed in this, because eventually I will be. Eventually, the light will come out of the darkness, and even the things right now that look like chaos. And I'm going to tell you something. Chaos can wear you out. This is why you have to stay strong. This is why you need a community of people. Ecclesiastes is 2 are better than 1, for if one falls, the other will lift up his fellow. Sometimes you need somebody to say, hang in there, stay strong. You'll notice, a lot of y'all text me with issues or whatever. If you'll notice, I nearly end every text with stay strong. I think that's so important, just to say, you're going to stay, you're just going to have to hang in there and keep looking into the chaos until you start seeing light come up out of it. And I can't make you see that. Because you know what? I got my own 7 C's. Do you know what I mean? I got my own stuff. Like, I'll help you with yours, if I'm a spiritual father to you. But I'm also in my own stage of maturity. I mean, very recently, and maybe about 3 of you in here even know what I'm talking about. But very recently, I went through something that I was sure was already a blessing and had given testimony to it. And I think it'd be safe to say chaos broke out in the situation. I mean, it was chaotic and blindsided me. I was like, what? I thought that was over and done with. How in the world did that resurface? And sometimes it can be daunting when you think there has been, I don't use the word victory a lot, but when you think there's been victory in an area and then something happens and you're like, oh my God, what? Like the doctor tells you, yeah, we got all the cancer, but then they call back and say, oh, we found another spot. It's that extra one that can knock you out, because you're like, oh man, I already put all my energy into getting responding to that good report, and now you're telling me that's where, if there is a Satan, that's where that comes in, where you're just like, I'm too tired to fight that. I mean, I already poured all my energy into this one, and now you tell me this. It's that, what's the word for it? It's that follow-up thing that really knocks people out. And that's when you have to look at it and say, ooh, chaos. You will not stay chaos. The chaos will become cosmos. The firmament will come up out of the water. He will separate. If you go read Genesis chapter 1, it says, 2 or 3 days before there were celestial beings like the sun and the moon, he says, there was light and there was darkness, and God separated the light from the darkness, and he called the light day and he called the darkness night. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? The God in you has got to separate the darkness from the light until you find out that it is all light. Because hear this, God didn't say let there be light and darkness. He said let there be light. But guess what? Darkness came. In the beginning, God created, and the earth fell into chaotic, fell into a vacancy. It was without form and void. So did God say, oh, well, so much for that? No. He says, well, then there's a vibrating word then that is going to cause light. This is why you need to, listen, you need to have your antenna up all the time trying to get your good word, and you need to weed out the people who are going to give you the bad word, because they're working against you. Do you know what I mean? There's some people you can't, I mean, they're family members or whatever, you can't get, but some people you have to say, I'm going to have to budget the time I have with you because we got some negative thing going on, and I can't go there. I'm going to have to keep it up here. And I love you. It's not that I'm not, if you need me, I'll be here for you. But I can't. Some of the stuff you say just really infects my spirit. And I can't. I got too much chaos going on. I got to keep it strong. I got to keep finding that vibrating word that is going to pull the cosmos up out of the chaos. All right. From him there came into being. Don't you notice out of the Hebrew and the Aramaic, there's no instantaneous stuff. Everything is, lay hands on the sick and they shall recover. The lepers were healed as they went on their way. This is where you got to look at it. It really is all, you've seen those success posters. Success is not a destination, it's a journey. Everything's a journey. So we'll all end up blessing. He's going to light the way to heaven. But sometimes it's going to go through things that if you don't find the vibrating word, they're going to stay chaotic, and you'll spend your entire life here just being bitter about the stuff that you can't understand. Or you can take inventory of all your crops and say, I will harvest every one of these. This might be 30-fold, this might be 60-fold, this might be 100-fold, but I promise you I will get something out of each of these things. Nothing will come into my life without blessing me. Even if it comes in as a curse, I will transform the curse into a blessing. All right. From him there came into being a perfect life, and this perfect life became light unto American Christians who prayed the sinner's prayer at a Billy Graham crusade. No? And he became light unto all men. Behold, he comes with clouds, and every eye will see him. I don't think that's a 33-year-old Jewish man floating in the sky. I believe that's a cosmic paradigm shift where all the peoples of the world go, oh, okay, there's the light. And don't you see it happening all the time? Don't you go to movies and you're like, wow, whoever wrote this script is definitely tuned into some spiritual stuff. I mean, and I'm not just talking about the Matrix. I mean, it's like I see it everywhere. Everything I look at, I'm like, wow, they really tapped into a truth there. And this light out of darkness caused light, and darkness did not overcome, and willed action became flesh. Anybody ever heard of that? That's Jesus. Willed action. That's not just Jesus. That's you, that's you, that's you. We've all had a nativity. It might not be in Bethlehem, but Paul said, I travail in pain until Christ is formed in you again. When it pleased the Lord who separated me from my mother's womb to reveal his son in me. I did not go to Jerusalem. I went to Arabia. What? That's crazy talk. Sometimes you got to get away from Jerusalem to find your light. You heard me? That was for somebody. And this light out of darkness caused light, and darkness did not overcome, and willed action became flesh and dwelt among us. And we saw glory as if begotten from the Father, completely filled with heavenliness and righteousness. All right, I gotta keep it moving. Let me show you this third one. This is John chapter 12. And let me just say, at the risk of sounding very charismatic, I'm feeling the Spirit of God very strong in this place right now. Is it just me? Are you aware? I mean, it's always good when we come, but I mean, today, John chapter 12, this is also out of the Comboris. Jesus said to them, a little while, the light is with you. Walk while you yet have the light. He's talking about, in his flesh form, he's about to leave. Walk while you have the light, so that darkness will not overtake you. He who walks in darkness does not know where he goes. Go on. While you yet have the light with you, have faith in the light, that you will be children of enlightenment. I've heard Christians say, well, Christians shouldn't use the word enlightenment. That's an Eastern word. Well, where do you think do you think Jesus was born in Ohio? Of course the Bible sounds Eastern, because guess what? It's Eastern. It's just amazing to me. Well, he was when you were born in Cabbagetown, but originally he was born. All right. Thus spoke Jesus and went off and hid from them. What? Has anybody ever said, God, where are you? Everybody, maybe y'all aren't corny enough for this, but you know, how many people had the footprints poster? You know, where were you, God, when there was one set of footprints? That was when I carried you. Because we all have that situation. We're like, God, do you not even see what's going on with me? Like, what the heck? And we've all had those kind of prayers. I was thinking about this, and I've evolved a lot since even last year. But a year ago yesterday, Ray had his heart attack. You know the story. And Joanne called in her very calm voice, Bishop, hi, this is Joanne. Ray's having a heart attack. He's being life-flighted right now to Emory. and we'd like to know if you could have a word with him. I'm like, okay. And I prayed with him, and I said, you're going to be okay. But I remember when I hung up the phone, and I remember the frame of mind I was in at the time. I don't know that I've ever interceded for anybody like this before. And I'm not telling you to do it, but I was cussing and praying. Because when I hung up the phone, I was like, God, seriously? Ray Muscarello? Are you freaking kidding me? And that's how I was praying. I was like, of all the people that the world would be so much better without, that have been hanging on, we thought they should have died 20 years ago, can't seem to get rid of them. Really? Nice, loving, sweet, giving Ray Muscarello? Really? You know, I was just... I mean, I actually had to go back and apologize later. Like, God, I was feeling a little emotional, but it was not a pretty prayer. I mean, it was like, God, are you effing kidding me? What? I mean, I was just, and I know that sounds crazy, but that's the emotion that was coming out of me. Well, he's here a year later, I guess, and he went to the doctor. I'm not saying it was just my prayer. I mean, they did what they had to do, but there is, there is that time when we're like, what in the world is going on here? This isn't right. And that's when you have to, this separates the men from the boys, the women from the girls. That's when listen, the chaos will either intimidate you or it will dare you to dive in and find the light in it. And many people are intimidated by the chaos. They're like, I can't. And they spend the rest of their life talking about the chaos. Then there are others of us who say, no, there's light in here somewhere. So it says, he went off and hid from them. I came as enlightenment unto all men, so that whoever completely believes will not stay in darkness. If anyone hears my words and does not observe them, I will not condemn him, for I came not to condemn men, but to save men. Do you understand that? He's saying, this isn't about me trying to pass judgment on people. He said, now the God of this world, is cast down, judgment's already been passed. He has judged the world righteous. We don't always know that, so we don't walk in that reality, but that's his paradigm of it. But what's interesting is he talks about light and then he hides from them. There's that first moment when your toddlers are, learning to walk, and, you're like, oh, Lord, you're going to fall and bang your head into that coffee table. But at a certain point, you have to say, well, you got to learn how to walk. I mean, because at 17, you can't be, and we all feel that way. The other night, we were talking, and Ken's kids were taking the baby. So it was real cold that day, and they were taking the baby to meet their grandmother or something. And he said, on days like today, I wish they'd just stay home. And I said, welcome to being a grandparent. And then now you've just added more people to be concerned about. You know what I mean? When you look at your kids carry off that baby, you're like, oh, God, y'all don't know what to do with the baby. But you didn't know what to do with the baby either, and you figured it out. But there's that constant letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, nearly having to hide from them. To say, I can only take you by the hand so much. I'm going to have to hide from you so that you can find the light. You can't find it in me. You have to find your own path. Bring up a child in the way he should go. If you, being a good parent, know how to do that, don't you know God does that? Have you ever felt like, well, I don't feel like God's taking me by the hand? Exactly. Of course he's not. You decree a thing, it'll be established unto you. And when you're 35 years old going, I wish my daddy would, well, you know what? Your daddy kicked you in the fanny and said, figure it out. Look into I gave you, you have my DNA. Look into the chaos and bring the cosmos up out of it. And not everybody wants to hear that, right? I was watching, I don't know if y'all ever seen Step Brothers with Will Ferrell and whatever his name is. It was on late last night, and I kind of ended up watching it. It's so funny. Parts of it are obscene, but it is so funny because it's a man that has an adult son who will not grow up, will not leave home, who marries a woman with an adult son. And they're, oh my God, it's like they're the most horrible, like they sleepwalk, they do all, I mean, there's no way to explain how funny this movie is. Because they just will not grow up. They cannot get these boys out of the house. They do everything to get them to, individualize, and they just want, and, at a certain point, it's not cute to be dependent on a parent. It's just not. At a certain point, you're like, this is just embarrassing. You know what I mean? We were talking to Christina last night about nursing, because at first she wasn't going to, but now she is. And I said, I'm so glad you are, because it really, if you can do it, it really does help the baby and helps you lose weight or whatever. And, my theory always was, and even when I was married to Debbie, she was a big believer in this. It's like, how long do you nurse them? Until they get teeth. Like nature will naturally tell you when they're biting your nipple off, it's like, you know what? They can chew food. If you can bite down that hard, you should be able to chew. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's like, oh, well, they got teeth now. They should be able to, they can eat some solid food. And not everybody, why do you think, remember in one of Peter's epistles, he talks about desire the sincere milk of the word, but you should want the meat. And there's that whole concept of weaning yourself off the milk, because you should be carnivorous by now. You're meat eaters. And this is a bold statement. Thank you for putting that clock up there. I got to be aware. This is a bold statement, but I would venture to say the majority of Christian churches are dairies. I mean, they are just they're seriously. They got a preacher up there that pulls one out and and. And it's embarrassing because you got these grown-ups, talking about the devil stole my finances. I'm like, really? Y'all still think that? Really? You come to me for it, I'd be like, you better order a steak. We got New York strip, we got prime rib. You can get a filet mignon, but you ain't getting nothing up here, because I'm going to teach you how to chew with your own teeth. This was interesting. I was looking at this metaphysical Bible dictionary. I thought this was interesting. It says the product of the first day's creation is recorded in Genesis as being heaven, earth, and light. Heaven represents spiritual ideas. Earth represents material thoughts. Light represents understanding. The firmament in the midst of the waters is an idea of confidence or faith in the invisible. Waters represent changing conditions. I thought that was very interesting, which are a necessary part of creation. But when faith establishes itself and separates what is above, spiritual, from what is below, material, the result is harmony or heaven. The dry land is the thought form or substance concept in which the seed of propagation or increase is implanted. The lights in the firmament, one to rule the day and the other to rule the night, are ideas of intelligent action. What did we just read? In the beginning was willed action. Lights in both the conscious and subconscious realms of mind. The abundant bringing forth of the waters is the fecundity. Does anyone know what something is fecund? It means like when a dog has a litter of puppies, it means you can give birth, and you can give birth to a lot of things. It's similar word to prolific. The waters is the fecundity of the mind, which great fishes symbolize. I love the way this writer looks at the book of Genesis. In order to bring forth great results in the mind, must realize its innate thinking capacity to be great. Because if you go back and read Genesis 1, it says, in the deep, and the great monsters of the deep, the great fishes, whatever. All of it is symbolic of the way we're supposed to be God on the earth. Woo, I love it. All right. This is Habakkuk chapter 2:14 in the NIV. For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Some people say, well, that means revival. I think it means chaos. And you look into the chaos, you find the vibrating word, you speak the word, the cosmos comes up out of the chaos. Everything will eventually be a blessing. I have two quotes, and you will not hear usually these people quoted in church, but I want to quote them. Carl Jung is the founder of analytical psychology. I thought this is an interesting quote. It says, in all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. This is what I love about these guys that don't consider themselves Christian or even necessarily spiritual. It's amazing how much they tap into things that are true. The knowledge of the Lord fills all the earth. And if Jung doesn't get you, here's Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche says, who was an atheist, but he says, you must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. So I think, well, a lot of these people that call themselves atheists, they weren't really atheists. They were people who had issues with organized religion and didn't like some of the things that people did in the name of God. Like a while back, I saw that Bill Maher movie, Religulous. And Bill Maher is a, very strong atheist. I agreed with probably 80% of what he said in that movie. I wanted to sit down with him and say, Bill, I don't think you're an atheist. I think you're kind of prophetic and sort of say that the emperor doesn't have clothes on and kind of speaking to some things that I say all the time. And when somebody is adamantly atheist, to me, they come across as fundamentalist, as a Bible thumper. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, no, if you use the word agnostic, I'm fine with that, because agnostic means, well, I don't know. I'm still learning. I don't even know if it's possible to know. I'm totally good with that. I think agnostic is probably a positive term. There's some things I'm quite agnostic about. It doesn't mean I'm not a believer. It means I'm like, well, I used to know everything. You should have met me when I was 14. I knew it all. Back then it was beautiful, but I don't know where I lost that information. Now at 56, I'm like, well, I don't know. Because there are things I believed a year ago that I'm not sure I believe now. And some people would see that as, oh, well, you're walking further and further into darkness. No, baby. I'm walking further and further into light. Let's all stand. I know. I wanted to be through by 12:30. Let's do it 12:31. Look at God. All right. You got to play this at least a couple more times, because y'all got the money. We need the money. Give the money. No, we're good. But I still want you to give.
Contributing at METRON is quick and easy. Simply text the amount you'd like to contribute to 404-620-5044. Once you've sent the amount you'd like to give, you will receive a link. Clicking the link will take you to a one-time registration form. This will make the contribution process even easier in the future. Once you've filled out the information form, you will then see a successful registration and donation page. You can now give anytime by simply texting an amount to this number. To set up recurring contributions, log on to missionthenow.com and click Simple Give. We have more information on how to do this available for you in the back of the room. Thank you for your investment in METRON.
If you have a check, just make it JESM, and Danny will be back there. If you have cash, I just want you to pay it forward. Take somebody to lunch, do something. There's plenty of indigent people out here that would be happy to for you to give them something, so be aware of that. Was this, you like this? I'm telling you, I love this stuff. I said I was going to give you a date for our makeup date for missing the King Center, but I still haven't pinned it down yet. I will tell you for sure by next Sunday. I'm thinking I might even nearly wait till April, just because I think there's a lot of outside walking on that, and I just want to make sure that everything's totally thawed out, because sometimes March is still unpredictable, and I don't want to, because this is the kind of thing I want us to be able to walk around and take pictures and all that kind of stuff. So, and I don't want people like freezing. So, and what is up with it? They keep telling us a blizzard's coming. It doesn't. What is that? I'm like, okay, well, bring it, and then it just doesn't. Did y'all had snow where you are, right? Midtown, not a flake. I woke up one day and I was all the news. They were talking about the snowpocalypse, and I'm like, am I in another dimension? Like there's no. I'm looking out my window like there's nothing out here. What are y'all talking about? Anyway, this is good information for you to walk in. This is what I want to pray today. I bless your ability to connect with the vibrating word that will enable you to look into the chaos and create the cosmos out of it. Do not be afraid. One more thing, if I can quote him one more time. In one of his songs, he opened, it might have been that same song, when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The chaos is the valley of the shadow of death. But in that, shoot, if it wasn't so late, I'd have you come back and sing that one more time. Because that was just a really right-on song. But I'll probably have you sing it again before the month's over, because that was a good word. Remember, there is a word vibrating up above you, and we're moving up toward it. This is our version of Live Long and Prosper. Which, by the way, Leonard Nimoy passed away, not Dr. Spock. People kept saying, Dr. Spock died. I'm like, no, Dr. Spock died years ago, the baby guy. This was Mr. Spock. So much to do. I never could do that. Could y'all do that? I never could. Oh, really? Oh, look at all you Trekkies. Y'all are such nerds. All right. I see that you got it. Next thing, you'll be quoting Monty Python sketches to me. Enough. All right. You're going to have an excellent week. You're blessed when you come in. You're blessed when you go out. The word is vibrating above you. Your very bones will vibrate with life. I speak light and life to you. You have favor with God and man. Safety while you're on the road. Peace of mind. Keep your mind stayed on Him. He keeps you in perfect peace. And you wake up tomorrow saying, this is the day that the Lord and I have made. I love you so much. See you next week.